I would work it up to idea, but I'm not real concerned about this guy. This one is concerning, especially if it is NCAP because it's so resistant to antibiotics. If this is like what I suspect, it looks like a cleft, relatively easy to kill at least. These little guys not so much. So on this inner ear, we have two organisms. I would work them both up. We need to get some better isolation because we have these little ones and they're kind of by themselves, but we don't have very many of them. I would try to subculture both of these to fresh plates and work from there because we don't really have enough to work off up here. This one big colony, we might could work it up by itself. But these, I mean, we just need more. I mean, think about it, you'd have to get every single one of those and you probably still wouldn't have a 0.5 McFarlane. So. How's it not going? Agriculture.
That's a bunch of trash.
That is a bunch of trash. What's the general rule for urine cultures?
Unless it's like a catheter or something?
Well, more than 3 organisms.
Chunky.
More than 3 organisms, we're gonna call mixed contaminant, no further to follow.
Yeah.
Unless that doctor absolutely demands it. Because if it was a female patient in her 20s or 30s, some of these white ones could be like a staph sapro, which is a concern. This is like a garbage, maybe a proteus. It's trying to swarm. We got a couple of gram negatives, these yellow or maybe a micrococcus. There's just so much going on. We can't do anything with that. If the doctor insists, look, we got to have this worked up, I'd try to pick out those the smaller white colonies in case it's a staph sapro and subculture it. Remember when we say mixed contaminated specimen, no further to follow, we still hold it for a couple days to give them that option to throw a fit, because they will. But if we're going by the book, this is trash. Even though, like I said, there's a couple things there that maybe could be pathogenic, there's just too much going on. It's like, look, collect this better specimen. Do a clean catch, do a cat, do what you gotta do, because this is garbage. But general rule, most places, if it's greater than 3 organisms, we're gonna do nothing. Throat culture.
Alpha hemolytic? I think that's what that is. I can't remember.
We definitely got some alpha hemolytic stuff.
Okay.
Is that concerning in the throat?
No.
It's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
What about these non-hemolytic white colonies? Yeah, probably a coag negative staph, not real concerning. The only thing on this whole plate that bothers me is this big guy. Mainly because looking at that, I don't know what that is. The other two, I'm pretty confident I know what they are, and they're garbage in the throat. That one, I'm not real sure. And since I'm not real sure, I gotta work that one up. But out of this, we have at least 3 organisms, and maybe 4. Because we have these little pinprick colonies that are so young, I can't tell if they're the same as this or not. So maybe 4 different organisms, but this one for sure concerns me. Because it's kind of got a weird appearance, it's kind of lumpy looking. Doesn't look like anything else there. And since I don't know what it is, I gotta follow up. Everything else there looks like normal flora. So in the throat, you're seeing some non-hemolytic staph and strep, and all that alpha strep is all supposed to be there. But that, I'm not too sure about that guy. Sputum culture.
That's concerning. Ooh, some of those.
It's supposed to be pure-ish.
Sputum is notorious for being contaminated because it's basically spit, comes out of the mouth, so it could have anything in it. But what's the first thing we notice about this guy?
Weird looking colonies.
Really weird looking colonies.
Yeah.
But it does look like it's all the same, whatever it is. So we do have one predominant organism. that weird looking colony, I've never seen anything like it in my life. I have no idea what that is.
The one down at the bottom?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
That's some weird stuff. It may be like a weird yeast or something.
Ooh.
But regardless, this is a source that is notorious for being contaminated with multiple organisms. And in this case, we have one predominant organism. And since we're not real sure what it is, we gotta work it up. Even if it was something that should be normal flora, but we look and that's all we see and it's everywhere, I'd probably still work it up. But especially this, because I have never seen anything like that in my life. I have no idea what this is. I mean, that's a weird one. Like I said, it could be some sort of weird yeast. And since it's a sputum, respiratory tract, you start getting yeast or anything fungal in there, it's bad, bad, bad news. But even if this would have been something as simple as a whole plate full of alpha strep, I would still be concerned if that's all there was. It's kind of like finding the E. coli in a stool culture. You're supposed to find E. coli in a stool culture. But if you look and all you see is E. coli, it's problematic. And this especially, again, this is one of those, we should see multiple different organisms and we're seeing one. And they're really, really strange. Sinuses.
That's not good.
Somebody describe this colony to me.
White clothing.
Yeah, a little fuzzy.
Yeah, I was gonna say mold maybe.
Maybe
What else does it kind of look like?
a yeast?
Cotton balls.
Maybe breadcrumbs?
Oh, yeah?
Maybe crumbled up dry breadcrumbs? What organism did we talk about that likes to jump on the sinuses and has a breadcrumb appearance as far as colonial morphology?
I forgot.
Nocardia. This is the one, if you gram stain it, it's going to be the thin branching. It's almost going to look fungal like hyphae because it's branching everywhere.
How do you do this?
This, I mean, I would suspect on immediate appearance, this looks like they've got nocardia in their sinuses. And for sinus infections, not terribly uncommon. Nocardia and actinomyces like to jump to the sinuses and to the tonsils. They like to stay in this area. So that fits with what I would consider a pathogen there. So this is a definite workup. We only have one organism. It's nothing mixed in here, unless that's something different, but it's so small I can't really tell. And actually on my picture it looks the same. Mine's a little more clear than yours. This we gotta work up. And since most places can't work this up, it's probably gonna be a send out. But we could, under the table, tell the doctors, like, look, I can't identify this, but it kind of looks like nocardia. So treat accordingly. But that's something that, like, I would leave to the micro supervisors. Like, look, I think it's nocardia. We got to send it out. If you talk to the doctor, and then hey. But yeah, real weird, lumpy looking breadcrumb appearance. Looks like you took toast and did this, and then sprinkled it on the plate.
Panko breadcrumbs. It said panko
Yeah.
breadcrumbs.
Nasal swab.
It's swarming, right, the party?
Doesn't look swarming.
Is that hemolysis or is that a hemolysis?
That is hemolysis.
Yeah.
Very, very beta hemolytic.
Oh, I guess when I put my.
How many different organisms do we have there?
Oh.
I see two.
one, yeah.
And they're both beta hemolytic.
Is it larger,
The larger and the
smaller?
smaller.
You got these like 4 or 5 big colonies
One, two.
that are also beta hemolytic. Then you have all these. Now what I'm thinking here is, remember that staph and strep, they kind of look the same, but one's a lot bigger than the other. I'm thinking Staph aureus, beta hemolytic strep. Remember, Staph aureus infections are notorious for invading the nares, the nasal passages. As a matter of fact, when we test people to see whether or not they're colonized with MRSA, we do a nasal swab. Because if you got MRSA in your body, I'll promise you I can find it in your nose. So that's the easiest, comfortable with it, you know, we don't have to get too invasive to swab them to test them for them.
Feels pretty.
So finding Staph aureus there is not terribly shocking. Finding the strep is a little bit. But I know that, like, almost all new patients and often employees who have had MRSA infections, they have to be swabbed and checked before they can return to work to make sure the antibiotics have worked. So you do a lot of these nasal swabs. And seeing this doesn't prevent them from coming back to work. Seeing that might, if it tests out as MRSA. So this, I mean, we would need to test that, or actually we'd have to subculture it first because it's too mixed. But the main thing we'd need to test is that regular Staph aureus or is that MRSA? If it's regular Staph aureus, you can take antibiotics and come back to work. If it's MRSA, you're going back home. You cannot work in a medical facility with MRSA. The strep, why is there strep in their nose? Depends on which kind it is. If it's A or B, then I'm guessing they probably got strep throat to go with this. If it's one of the weird ones like strep H or something that's beta hemolytic, then it may be just garbage, but we'd have to test that to find out. We'd have to antigen type the strep, figure out what Lancefield group we're dealing with, A through H, I think. Actually, I think there's 9 now. They keep finding new ones.
So if we wanted to test for MRSA on that big colony, we could do Kirby Bauer?
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
Okay, cool.
But first we gotta subculture that out and get it more pure. And this is gonna be really hard to do. I mean, we can't see the whole plate, obviously. But maybe if we could get right on the edge of this and not get into these strips, maybe we could get a pure swab there. But like these, we can't get to these at all. They're almost surrounded. Especially that one. I mean, I wouldn't even try to touch that colony. Maybe this one, we can get a little corner of it and get a pure subculture.
Will we create a broth so that we could spread it on that new agar?
Not necessarily. You can take it straight from the swab just for subculture for purity.
Okay.
All right, another nasal swab. What do y'all think about this one?
Tiny white colonies.
Tiny white colonies. What about hemolysis?
None.
None, or if it's there, it's extremely weak.
They look like they're depressed into the
That one almost does look like it's trying to turn greenish, like very weakly alpha maybe.
They look depressed.
Are you sure they're tiny
They do a
white
little bit.
colonies though?
So maybe we have a small white, maybe weakly alpha hemolytic colony.
What's that?
I would think this is some variety of strep. And I would not care at all except for one problem.
Location?
It's all the same. Again, we got one colony type. If I see alpha strep in your nose, I'm not concerned, it should be there. But that shouldn't be the only thing I find. So in that regard, it's kind of concerning. But if I did this and I found some alpha strep, maybe a staph aureus, a couple of staph epis and all that, I would think nothing. But when I see solid alpha strep in a nasal swab, that's just kind of strange to me. I would have to work that up because it shouldn't be predominant. It should be a mixture. Just like doing a throat swab. Most of y'all swab your throats by now, and you end up finding 5, 6 different things. Normal flora is only normal when it's kind of with all of its buddies. When it's by itself, it may or may not be normal anymore. Stool culture. How many different bacteria do we have in here?
You got 1, 2, 3, 4. About 4. Yeah, about 4. 3 or 4.
I say 3.
At least 3.
1, 2,
At least 3, maybe as many as 5.
Yeah.
4.
So 35 organisms.
That one big one looks similar to the smaller ones on the side,
Yeah.
just older.
So as far as pathogens in the stool, is anything here that we need to work up? Is anything here we're worried about?
No.
I don't see anything too terribly concerning. It's a mixture of flora, which we like. There's no beta hemolysis, so that rules out a lot of things that we care about. Even if this was some sort of enteric, and it looks like it is, that's some sort of a gram-negative rod, it's in no way predominant. I mean, your enteric should be there. If it was overgrown and all we saw was this, maybe problematic. But we're seeing a good mixture, and this is what a normal stool culture should look like. You got a plate full of garbage. because there's millions and millions of different types of bacteria in there. Now, I will say they did a horrible job streaking this. They have almost no isolation whatsoever. I mean, quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 look almost just alike. They have a solid mass of growth, and they're way down here, and they get just a few. So streaking job, D minus. Culture itself, relatively normal. Spinal fluid.
Bad, very bad.
Yeah. Nothing in spinal
Wow,
fluid.
there's only, what, 4 colonies there?
No,
There
there shouldn't be
anything.
anything.
Cerebral
Nothing
spinal
sterile.
fluid.
Shouldn't be anything. Whatever this is, it looks the same. I got little bitty white colonies. We would need to spread this out and grow it some more to get enough of it to work up, but immediately I see this, bad. Bad, bad, bad. Even if I saw nothing on the gram stain, I'm gonna pick one of these out and make a fresh gram stain, because I know I can see this. Then I'm gonna get another plate, and I'm gonna spread the rest of this out to get enough to grow. Now, what is this most likely? Small pinprick white colonies, maybe some sort of a Haemophilus, maybe an MCAT. But you know, it also gives us a clue for Haemophilus because it's growing on blood auger. So it's missing at least one of the factors, correct? It doesn't have X and B factor available, so it's growing on this. But regardless, I wouldn't care if I looked at that and said, that's a staph epi. We've got to work it up. It shouldn't be there. Even if I know that I look and I see 15 colonies of staph epi, and I say they picked that up in the needle when they went through the back, I've still got to work that up. Because we don't make that call. Even though I'm looking at this and saying, this is garbage, it's gonna end up garbage, the doctor's gonna know it's garbage, I am going to work this up, this is a spinal fluid. If I looked at this and I saw 10 different organisms and that whole plate was covered, guess what?
Contaminated.
We're gonna work up every single one of them,
Because it's spinal.
because they should not be there. And even though they grossly contaminated the specimen, and it's obvious it's grossly contaminated, we don't make that call. This is a sterile site, we work up everything seen. Because this is not like a urine, where we can just say, just have to go pee in a cup again, give me something cleaner. I gotta stab them in the back again to replace this. We're gonna work it up. And once we ID 10 organisms, then the doctor can determine which one of those he wants to treat, or all of them. So yeah, that's kind of the thing if you've been contaminated like blood culture, because then you gotta work all that stuff up. The only person who can overturn that would be the physician. Like if you recall them, look, I got 12 organisms growing on this plate. He might say that's garbage, throw it away. Well, he can make that call, we can't. Urine culture.
Questionable.
So there's only 2.
At least 2, that's what I'm seeing as well. 2 different colony types.
And
So what's our rule with urines?
It has to have everybody.
3 or more, we can throw it away, or we can call it garbage and not work it up. We have 2.
So you have to work it up.
We gotta work on both of them. This bottom one is some sort of non-hemolytic staph, probably. So maybe a staph epi, maybe a staph sapro if it's female that we're concerned about. This, that looks like some sort of a gram-negative rod. It's a little bit mucoid, so maybe it's a cleb. We can't tell since we're blood auger and it's not hot pink. That looks like a gram-negative rod to me. That is our #1 culprit for UTIs. This is another one that even though we can see it, we're gonna have a hard time getting to it to isolate it. We can't touch any of these because we're gonna pick up this staph with it. Maybe we can get a swab right there and get a little of that. Hopefully the rest of the plate looks better than this picture does. Because that is our only hope to barely touch that edge. And guess what? You may still contaminate it. These are easy. We can just take a swab, do it Bianca style, and just take that whole line if we want to. But actually with this right here, just this field, we've got enough isolated colonies to go ahead and ID from this. And we can go ahead and get this on the machine running while we're subculturing that. So we could give them an ID for, say, a coag negative staph, and then say, also 1 gram negative rod, results tomorrow or something, because we have to subculture it. Because we definitely can't get enough of any one of those to ID it without picking up that staff, because it's so surrounded. Again, it kind of looks like they didn't do a great job of streaking, otherwise I would hope that one of these would be down here. There's like none of them down there. But we can't see the whole plate, so hard to tell. Internal abscess. We're talking about an abscess on the liver, somewhere on the guts, on the inside.
So very bad.
Yeah. There's a
Should also
halo.
be sterile.
Huh?
That's not an A1 hemolysis.
No.
It's got a halo?
There's another term for that.
I can't remember that term. Hemolysis?
Alright, it's internal, so we have to raise the possibility of anaerobes. This is not exposed to air, this is somewhere inside the body. It's beta hemolytic, but it has a double zone of hemolysis. What anaerobe produces that?
You would say that.
You should know, it was on an exam. Causes gas gangrene.
Oh.
Clostridium perfringens, good.
Good job.
Notorious for its double zone of hemolysis, and actually this almost has a triple zone of
You
hemolysis.
can't
That's
answer
even
questions
better.
like that.
Yes, I can.
The 9 chapter test, come on.
It looks like we have predominant one organism out of that internal abscess. It looks like an anaerobe, has a double zone of hemolysis. So we would have to work this up to prove it, but immediately that's Clostridium perfringens. That's gas gangrene. You need to get that abscess out and wash that stuff out.
Throw the whole organ away.
Do what?
Just throw the whole organ.
Throw it off.
Well, it depends on what organ it's on. That organ may be important. If that internal abscess is on the appendix, okay. If it's on the liver, might not want to throw that out.
Cut it out.
I mean, they
Cut
cut
it all out.
Yeah, it's on, I don't know what's going on here, but it's got to go. But yeah, that's what Clostridium perfringens looks like. Now, the part of this information we don't know is that this would have come out of an anaerobe bag or box or something, or it wouldn't have grown. That is a classic Clostridium perfringens. It has that double zone of hemolysis. But as soon as you look like, oh, I know what that is. Again, we have to prove it on the machine or whatever, but we already know.
Bad. Bad. You can only see one thing.
All right, first, what's the colony count? Remember on urines, we did colony counts.
Too many to count.
Greater than 30.
I'd probably call it greater than 100.
Oh.
Greater than 100,000. Because this is, I mean, there's 100 just right
I
there.
wasn't
probably.
counting those.
Yeah, that's not one colony, that's a couple hundred kind of.
Okay. Okay, then yeah.
How many organisms does it look like we have on this plate?
I don't know if there's like something. Are there tiny ones right there?
I think it's one.
I think it's one.
I think it's all one colony type.
One that's just
I think we have some small ones, but I think they're just young colonies. What do you notice about the appearance of this?
Mucoid.
Very mucoid. Our enterics, they like to go to the poop and the pee. This looks like an enteric. Looking at a glance, it looks like a cleft. Now there's another one that will fool you. 1 out of 1,000 plates, and it's extremely rare. You can actually get a mucoid E. coli. It will look just like cleft.
But it won't read out as clear.
But it won't read out as cleft when you test it. So you look at this and go, oh, that's cleft. Put it on the machine. It comes back E. coli. I'm like, ooh, they got me on that one. Rare, but you do see it. Yeah.
So is that what that is? Is that what that is?
No, I have no idea.
You just said put it on a machine.
Yeah.
You walk us through that, what kind of machine we're putting it on?
Don't know where you're at. Vitec, Microscan, all those, micro ID machines.
Sometimes you read the panel out and gives you a number, you look in a book, you look it up, you plug in the numbers, and that's how you figure it out.
Actually, they have all that automated now where you don't have to look them up in the
Or
book.
Word I stuff.
The old style was it didn't give you an ID, it gave you a code, like a 6-digit code, and then you had to go to the book and go, okay, that's Cleb.
Yeah, that's what
Cleb
Florida
Nemo.
still does.
Yeah. Most of that's automated now in most places. But most likely, looking at this, I would say Cleb. 1 in 1,000, you're gonna get fooled, and it's gonna be mucoid E. coli. But it's certainly slimy looking gray colonies. Without a doubt, I'm saying this is gram-negative rod. It's one colony type, greater than 100,000. Definitely a UTI, not just garbage. If it was garbage, I would expect to see multiple organisms. So yeah, that's a definite workup, and this is the ones we love to see, because we don't have to do anything. We don't have to subculture for our purity or any of that. It's already pure. All we have to do is go straight to the machine from here. No subculturing, no nothing. What about this year?
That's not isolated enough, that's the same, hang on.
It's like cotton balls.
Is that same
It's
bread?
still greater than 100,000 colonies.
So would you still work it up? It's the same one.
Perhaps.
Part of it yellow.
Do what?
Why is part of that yellow?
Bad picture. But looking down here, it's white, really nondescript colonies, non-hemolytic, greater than 100,000. Would I work it up? Would I not work it up? This is one of those, depends on the patient. This is almost certainly a coag-negative staph. So for 90% of the population, we're gonna put coag-negative staph. But if they're young, sexually active female, now we have to ID.
Make sure it's not the others.
We gotta look for staph saprophyticus. We're gonna do antibiotic sensitivity either way. But for like, if I had this in my urine, they don't necessarily need an ID, they're just gonna call it a coag-negative staph. Now, it does look like it is causing an infection. It's one organism. Even if you contaminate it and get a bad specimen, you shouldn't get this much, this pure. So we're definitely gonna get an antibiotic sensitivity on it. But as far as the ID on like males, young kids, older females, whatever, they're gonna call it coag-negative staph and stop. 20, 30, 40-year-old, we're gonna have to ID it and go down to staph saprophyticus if that's the case. But remember, pure cultures always concern us. Pure cultures means infection to us. Bronchwash. Remember, this is when they drowned you? They fill your lungs full of water and then suck it back out and then we culture it.
That looks nasty. That's mucoid.
Very mucoid.
That's on a pen.
And it's on a MAC plate.
Clap? Is it a clap? It's on the bottle.
Yeah, it is Glib.
It is Cleb Pneumo.
Look at that.
I'm glad you can still read that little writing.
I can see it.
So I've got to do some cropping on this photo.
I
That
didn't
is
even see
Cleb
it after
Pneumo.
I said it.
What is our #1 cause for respiratory tract infections? Cleb Pneumo.
Clap.
It's very pure,
It's very nasty.
very nasty, kind of slimy looking. Looks like somebody blew their nose on the plate.
Boogies.
Yeah, this is an automatic workup. It's a good one. It's easy. It's already pure for us. We don't have to do any subculturing. All we have to do is ID it. And they did that work for us. It says right there. But we do have to do the antibiotic sensitivity on us. Very unusual to see bronchwashes that are pure. Now, bronchwash, that's coming deep one, which should be a sterile environment, correct?
Yes.
But it has to come out through a non-sterile environment.
Right.
So you pick up a lot of that throat flora and mouth flora when it comes out a lot of times. So to find it this pure, I mean, that's a bonus. That made our work easy.
How long does a bronchwash last? Because it sounds horrible.
It is horrible. It doesn't last
So
very
wait, do they suck it up through a sterile tube or do they just make them throw it up?
long. Depends on the doctor.
Okay.
Most of the time, they're going to reject that before they have time to suck it up.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, they're gonna suck some of it up, but your lungs are going to kick that out pretty quickly because that's a defense mechanism. You are drowning. That is what they did to you. Doesn't it sound pleasant?
Yeah.
They also have a thing where they have a long toothbrush, basically, and they rub it down there and like scrub the
Oh.
lungs out and pull it out and then culture the brush.
Oh,
And
That's
you
how
be
it plays
awake.
well, doesn't it?
You have to be awake through all this.
Oh, yeah, you're waiting.
Oh, lovely.
That's the best part of the good paying them to do all this
It is.
bullshit.
Cruel and unusual punishment according to the
Alright,
US.
so we have this on a blood culture.
Oh, that's not good. But
But it's supposed to be sterile.
like a
That
lot.
is alpha hemolytic,
That's bad. That's gross.
very pure.
it has an indented center.
Strip.
Strip of what?
Oh, pneumonia,
Yeah,
because
it's
it's down at the bottom
It's
again.
pneumonia.
Is it really on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Streptococcus pneumoniae.
Strep pneumoniae in the blood is not horribly unusual. You don't see it often. But we've got to work this up because it came from a blood culture. That's a sterile site. No matter what it is, we've got to work it up.
It does the little dent thing.
And on this one, we cannot drag our feet or waste a lot of time, because what does strep pneumo do? It will auto-lyse. This will self-destruct. So we gotta work it up and we gotta move with it. This is one of those that if you get a positive blood culture and you set it on the counter and say, I'll gram stain that later, and come back after lunch and gram stain it, there'll be nothing there. They've all auto-lysed.
You pointed at something and said this will help you identify. What were you gonna say?
The coin appearance
Yep.
with the sunken centers and the raised edges, alpha hemolytic, that's strep pneumo.
Would that be, umbilicus
Uh,
or just coin?
yes, umbilical. If we gram stain this, what does strep pneumo look like on a gram stain? Gram positive cocci, but more specific.
Tiny diplo.
Diplo. What unique shape does it have?
Is it
Lancet.
pointed?
Lancet
Yeah.
shaped. Gram positive, lancet shaped diplococci. They'll be in pairs and they'll be a little bit pointed looking. Very distinctive. You should be able to look at the gram stain or this and just immediately like, that's strep pneumo. Again, we can't say that, we have to prove it, we still gotta put it on the machine, but that, without a doubt, is strep pneumo. Another blood culture.
That's very bad too.
So somebody describe the colonies to me. What do they look like?
Pinpoint white.
Creamy.
Hemolysis,
No.
non-hemolytic. Small, white, non-hemolytic colonies,
Creamy.
kind of creamy looking. To me, looks like coag negative staph, like a staph head. This is one of those, somebody didn't wipe the arm down very good, they drew the blood cultures, now it's full of staph head. It's contaminated. It's contaminated bottle. Guess what we get to do to it?
Throw it away.
Work it up.
Oh.
It came from a sterile site. We look at this and go, this is garbage. We've still got to work it up.
It's like, I don't want it.
Because we work it up, we send it to the doctor, and we let the doctor decide this is garbage. Because if they're a chemo patient, if they're an AIDS patient, they're severely immunocompromised, this very well, they could be septic with coag negative staph. So that's not our call to
But
make.
odds are it's not.
Odds are it's garbage. But again, we don't get to make that call.
Work it up.
Work it up, it's blood culture. As many, depending on your site, I know when I was at CHI Little Rock, they were having a big problem while I was there. And as many as 60% of their blood cultures that were drawn in ER were contaminated.
Jeez.
60, an acceptable contamination rate for blood cultures is 2 to 3%. They were getting a 60% contamination rate.
Did they get shut down?
No, they had some massive retraining going down to the ER nurses who were drawing all these, and not cleaning the arms properly.
Huh.
They say an acceptable rate is 2 to 3% contamination. I don't know if anybody can keep it that low. You just,
What was national parks?
it varies wildly. The last one I remember, they were running about a 10% rate, which is not bad. It's still not the acceptable level, but it's almost impossible to get it down that low. You do the best you can, but even common sense says 60% is not gonna work. But CHI's since gotten that fixed by retraining the nurses on how to do this right. Wow, somebody's surgical incision got infected and they went back and had it swabbed. This is what we grew.
That looks really.
Three grows.
That's really
Yeah.
nasty.
Yeah.
At least 3,
Maybe
and if that
4.
little tiny one up there is something different, maybe 4. So maybe 4.
But
So,
this is a surgical incision and not a earring, you work it up, right?
no, you see budding microscopically, not on the colony. So whatever that is that looks budding is beta hemolytic.
Yep.
I'm guessing that's probably Staph aureus, which would make sense with a wound infection.
Some big old white bags.
These,
Yes.
well, it's kind of gray looking, kind of slimy looking. Looks like a gram-negative rod.
Uh-oh.
So my question would be, this is a surgical incision, where? Was this an abdominal surgery? And maybe there was some intestinal flora that got on the wound? Were you doing like, removing a section of intestine or something like that? Because if this is like a Kleb or an E. coli or Proteus or something like that, that's kind of concerning. You don't want that in the wound. Now, if that was an arm wound, I would say this is probably some sort of garbage. If this is an abdominal wound, they were doing abdominal surgery, this concerns me. This small, white, non-hemolytic colony, probably a staph epi or some sort of coag-negative staph. But it's an incision, it's surface, it's skin. That's normal. I ain't working that up at all. But these two are of concern. And maybe that guy, if it's something different. Especially if I looked at the plate and I saw more of those little bitty colonies, I might want to go, we gotta figure out what that is. Then we'll decide if it's garbage. This is a definite workup, no doubt. This, I at least want to get an ID and I want to know the site this came from. Because the problem is, a lot of your cultures will say surgery wound.
When?
Then you gotta call them and say, where is this surgery wound? Or they'll send up and say it's a wound culture. Okay, where?
Same thing.
Because I'm looking for different stuff if the wound is inside their mouth versus the bottom of their foot.
Why don't they just put that?
Because that would require intelligence.
Well, they do the same thing with blood culture, I think you're supposed to know exactly where they drew you at.
Yeah.
They expect you to be,
What?
we're superheroes.
Yes.
wasting
Okay,
time.
just to refresh, when you're saying take one of these colonies and do a workup on it, does that mean like streak for isolation with it?
If required, streak for isolation. Like this, these are big colonies. I can get enough of that to put on the machine right now. I can get enough of that to put in fluid to make a 0.5 McFarland. This, with these two, if you're careful, you probably can as well. That one, not so much. You're gonna have to re-streak that to grow more of it, because that's not enough.
So would you also gram stain those just to look at them?
That little one I would. This one I wouldn't, because I already know what that is.
Yeah.
This I know is a gram-negative rod. I don't know which kind.
So when the little one, when you're gonna grab some of it and re-streak on
Re-streak the plate with that.
that is what you call workup?
That's subculture.
Okay, so.
Workup is when we're taking it and putting it on the machine for identity. The old style workup would be taking that and putting it in 40 biochemical tubes. Now we put it on the machine. We put it in a vial, we make a 0.5 McFarland with saline, and then put it on the machine. And the machine doesn't work for us. But surgery incision, non-hemolytic staph, that's supposed to be there. Unless they cut them open and they did the incision like on their intestine, then maybe it's a problem, but as long as this is a surface incision, we don't care about that stuff. Throat culture,
Not good,
No.
why?
because
Same
it doesn't have
problem.
buddings. Throat culture should have lips.
It looks like there might be
Well, I
two.
see
I see
2 to 3 different
Yeah.
organisms here.
They're just very
The
small.
bigger one.
But on a throat culture, what's the main thing we're looking for?
Strep?
Beta hemolysis.
And
We're
there's
looking for Group A and Group B strep. That's our 2 big culprits. Now, there's other things that could be a possibility. The 2 things we're looking for are both beta hemolytic. So I'm gonna look at this plate and I go, there's nothing here beta hemolytic. So they don't have strep throat. If it's a child under the age of 5, I might be concerned about Haemophilus. Nothing there really looks like Haemophilus. It's all a little bit too white. This looks like non-hemolytic strep. Really, on a throat culture, I would expect to see more alpha hemolytic colonies, but I don't see any beta hemolytic colonies, so I'm not real concerned about any of this. And most of the time on throat cultures, when we see this, what we report out is no beta hemolytic strep. Done. Because that's all the doctor's looking for. And since no one trusts strep test very well, if you do a strep test on someone that's negative, streak a blood plate. And then come back tomorrow and look and verify that there's nothing there beta hemolytic. Because strep tests are specific for group A strep. You can get strep throat from group B strep as well. So you can have a negative test and still have strep throat. It's just not group A. But we're looking for beta hemolysis, and there's none present. So no beta hemolytic strep present, done. And you want to take 5 before we start talking about worms?
Oh, man.